Good day to you, sirs and ma'ams. My name's Anthony Burns, but Tony is fine. I'm here to tell y'all the story of my life, hoping to teach you something and maybe y'all won't make mistakes like me. I started off real good and lucky for a black man like myself, over in Alexandria, Virginia, where I grew up with Master Sir Charles Suttle. Many actually say I was a privileged slave, though in my opinion, there ain't no way those two words can match in a sentence together. But still, I was doing okay. Master even let me do other jobs and such, so long as I paid him and all. I got to be a clothing clerk and even a preacher in my town and everything. I'm forever thankful, but there was just something missing, from my life. I mean, I just knew I was meant to do more and do something bigger than stay the property of another man. That was my first mistake, trying to bend the laws of nature, believing that a black man like myself could be anything more than a slave. But still, ever since I was 10 and all the way till I was 19, I felt the Lord telling me that there was a Christ who came to make us free. That's when I began to hear about the North and feel the necessity for freedom of my soul and body. And I listened to my thoughts, and in 1854, I done ran away, boarded a ship to Boston, and finally found freedom. I still know damn well today that that day in March, when I got there, was the happiest day of my life. I ain't ever felt so happy and so right. But right after that was when everything started going straight to hell. I made the foolish, life-ruining mistake of sending my brother a letter that showed my address. And even though I was real careful to make sure it went straight to Canada and all, it still got in the hands of Master somehow. That's when he sent everyone up here to start looking for me. I thought I was safe because Boston's supposed to be safe and all. But I learned later that something called the Fugitive Slave Act from some compromise made 4 years earlier meant the government had to be on Master's side. On May 24, I was caught and sent to prison. It was the worst time I've ever had in my life. I remember it like a movie playing in my head. I was held in the third floor of the courthouse, and when Master came and visited me, I remember I never felt so angry in my life. I remember he tipped his hat and said, "How do you do, Mr. Burns?" all fancy-like, and then asked me why I even ran away, saying, "Haven't I always treated you well, Tony?" To this day, it baffles me that someone could ever thought I could be content with that type of situation. But as mad as I was, I came to find out that these groups of abolitionists, lots were white and some was black, was planning in Fannie Lou Hall for days that they could bail me out, and one day, about 2,000 people, led by a man, a very kind one, named Thomas Wentworth Higginson, tried to break in and all. Even though it never worked, I was and I still am real thankful that so many people would try and do that for me. But after that, things got real worse, and the president was trying to enforce this act, and so he sent the military and people and everything to watch me. That whole time was just miserable, and on June the 2nd that year, they convicted me as a fugitive slave, as if I had done something wrong, something terrible, and sent me back to Virginia on a military ship. I was so sad and angry for that portion of my life, treated like a criminal just for wanting my freedom. But it wasn't all over yet. In less than a year, things looked up again, and the black church did something real kind and raised a whole lot of money and freed me again. I went to Boston again, and it was the second happiest day in my life. I'd be free forever, and so far, I've loved my new life. If there's anything I'd learned in my years, it's never stop fighting for your freedom. And I hope you learned something listening to me today. Good day.